You know what's interesting? Right now, as I stand here looking at all of you, I can see it in your eyes. Some of you walked in here today feeling like you're not enough. Some of you are carrying the weight of every rejection, every failure, every moment someone made you feel small. And I want you to know something right from the start. I've been there. I've been the girl who was told she wasn't tall enough, wasn't fair enough, wasn't this enough or that enough. I've been told no more times than I can count. But here's what changed everything for me. I stopped waiting for permission to believe in myself. Let me take you back to a moment that defined my entire journey. I was 17 years old, standing in a room full of the most beautiful women I had ever seen. It was the Miss India pageant, and I remember looking around thinking, what am I even doing here? These women were tall, they were stunning, they had been preparing for this their entire lives. And me, I was just a girl from a small town who had sent in photos on a whim. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a stylist. I barely knew how to walk in heels without looking like a baby giraffe learning to stand for the first time. But something happened in that moment of pure terror. I made a decision. I decided that even if I didn't believe I belonged there, I was going to act like I did. I was going to walk into that room like I owned it. Even though my knees were shaking, I was going to smile like I had nothing to prove, even though inside I was falling apart. And you know what? I won. Not because I was the most talented or the most prepared. I won because I chose confidence over comfort. I chose courage over certainty. That's what I want to talk to you about today. Not some abstract concept of confidence that lives in self-help books and Instagram quotes. I want to talk about real, unshakable confidence, the kind that gets you through rejection, failure, criticism, and doubt. The kind that makes you unstoppable. Because here's the truth that nobody tells you: confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. It's a muscle. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to build it. The first thing you need to understand is that confidence begins with knowing yourself. And I don't mean the surface level stuff. I mean really knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you're willing to fight for. When I first moved to Mumbai to pursue acting, I had no idea who I was as a person. I was trying to be what I thought Bollywood wanted me to be. I was trying to fit into a mold that was never made for me, and I was miserable. I remember sitting in my tiny apartment one night after another failed audition, looking at myself in the mirror and not recognizing the person staring back at me. I had changed everything about myself. The way I talked, the way I dressed, even the way I laughed, all to try to become someone I thought would be more acceptable. And it wasn't working. Because here's what I learned. People can smell inauthenticity from a mile away. When you're not being yourself, it shows. It shows in your body language, in your voice, in the way you carry yourself. So I made another decision. I decided to stop trying to be what I thought people wanted and start being exactly who I was. I was loud. I was opinionated. I didn't fit the traditional Bollywood heroine mold, and I stopped apologizing for it. And you know what happened? The right opportunities started showing up, not the ones I was chasing, but the ones that were actually meant for me. Because when you show up as yourself, you attract the things that are aligned with who you really are. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who inspire you, who make you stop scrolling, who make you think, I want to be like them. What do they all have in common? They're unapologetically themselves. They're not trying to be a copy of someone else. They've figured out what makes them unique, and they've leaned into it so hard that it became their superpower. Oprah didn't become Oprah by trying to be Barbara Walters. She became Oprah by being Oprah. The same is true for every single person who has ever made a real impact. So here's your first step: get to know yourself. Spend time with yourself. Journal, reflect. Ask yourself the hard questions. What do I value? What makes me angry? What makes me come alive? What would I do even if nobody was watching? These aren't easy questions, and the answers might surprise you. But this is where confidence starts, in the deep knowledge of who you are beneath all the noise and expectations. Now, once you know who you are, you have to accept who you are. And this is where it gets really challenging, because acceptance means embracing all of you, not just the highlights reel, but the messy, imperfect, sometimes embarrassing parts too. I spent years being insecure about my voice. I thought it was too deep, too different. In an industry where everyone sounded a certain way, I felt like I stood out for all the wrong reasons. People commented on it constantly. Some people loved it, but many people mocked it. And for a long time, I let that insecurity control me. I tried to modulate my voice to make it softer, more traditionally feminine. I was exhausted from trying to be something I wasn't. Until one day, someone said something that changed my perspective completely. A director told me, "Your voice is your signature. It's the thing people will remember about you long after they've forgotten your face." And it hit me. What I saw as a flaw was actually my strength. It was the thing that made me different, that made me memorable. Acceptance doesn't mean you can't improve or grow. It means you stop fighting against the fundamental truth of who you are. It means you stop apologizing for existing exactly as you are. When I accepted my voice, my height, my skin color, my personality, when I stopped seeing these things as obstacles and started seeing them as assets, everything shifted. My confidence grew because I wasn't wasting energy trying to be someone else. I was investing that energy in becoming the best version of myself. Let me tell you something else about acceptance. It has to include accepting your past, all of it. The mistakes, the failures, the moments you wish you could take back. I've made plenty of mistakes in my career. I've taken roles I shouldn't have taken. I've said things I wish I hadn't said. I've made decisions that, in hindsight, were completely wrong. And for years, I carried that shame around like a weight on my shoulders. I thought those mistakes defined me, that they proved I wasn't good enough. But here's what I eventually realized: your past doesn't define you unless you let it. Those mistakes, they were lessons. They were necessary steps on the path to becoming who I am today. Every failure taught me something. Every rejection redirected me toward something better. When you can look back at your life and see the purpose in your pain, when you can accept that every experience, good and bad, has shaped you into who you are, that's when you become truly confident. Because you're no longer afraid of making mistakes. You know that even if you fall, you'll learn something valuable from the fall. The third step is something that most people never talk about when they discuss confidence, but it's absolutely crucial. You have to take care of yourself. And I don't just mean physically, although that's important too. I mean taking care of your mental health, your emotional well-being, your spiritual health. You cannot be confident if you're running on empty. You cannot show up powerfully in the world if you're not showing up for yourself first. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a period in my life where I was saying yes to everything. Every project, every appearance, every opportunity. I was terrified that if I said no, the opportunities would stop coming. I was working 18, 20-hour days. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating properly. I definitely wasn't taking time for myself, and I thought I was being strong. I thought I was being dedicated and professional. Until my body forced me to stop. I got sick, really sick, and I had to take a break. And in that break, I realized something profound. I had been so busy trying to prove myself that I had forgotten to take care of myself. I had treated myself like a machine, like something that could just keep going without rest or maintenance. And the truth is, confidence requires energy. It requires you to be operating from a place of strength, not depletion. So now, self-care is non-negotiable for me. I work out not because I'm trying to look a certain way, but because it makes me feel strong. It reminds me that I'm capable, that I can push through discomfort, that I can set a goal and achieve it. I meditate because it helps me stay grounded when everything around me is chaotic. I spend time with people who fill me up, not drain me. I say no to things that don't serve me, even when it's uncomfortable. And here's what happened when I started prioritizing myself. I became more confident because I wasn't looking for validation from external sources anymore. I wasn't dependent on other people's approval to feel good about myself. I had built an internal foundation of self-worth that nobody could shake. When you take care of yourself, you send yourself a powerful message: I matter. I'm worth the investment. That's confidence. Let me move to the fourth step. And this one is going to challenge some of you, stop seeking approval. This is one of the hardest things for people to do, especially in today's world where we're constantly connected, constantly comparing, constantly seeking validation through likes and comments and shares. But here's the brutal truth: if your confidence depends on other people's approval, it will always be fragile. It will always be conditional, because people are unpredictable. Their opinions change. What they love about you today, they might criticize tomorrow. I spent my early years in Hollywood desperate for approval. I wanted the American audience to accept me. I wanted the media to embrace me. I wanted to prove that I belonged in spaces where I was often the only one who looked like me. And that desperation showed. I was trying so hard to please everyone that I lost sight of what I wanted, what I thought, what I believed in. There was this incident early in my Hollywood career where I was at a red carpet event and a reporter asked me a question about my accent. The way they asked it, it was clear they were trying to make me feel small, trying to point out that I was different. And instead of standing in my truth, instead of being confident in who I was, I got defensive. I tried to explain myself to justify my existence in that space. And I left that interaction feeling defeated, feeling like I had lost something. But then I started looking at the people I admired who had real, lasting success. And what I noticed was that none of them were people pleasers. They didn't contort themselves to fit into other people's expectations. They stood firmly in their truth, even when it was unpopular, even when it was criticized. And that's when I understood confidence means being willing to be disliked. It means being willing to disappoint people who have expectations of you that don't align with who you are. Now, I'm not saying you should be rude or disrespectful. I'm not saying you shouldn't consider other people's perspectives. But I am saying that you cannot build unshakable confidence while constantly seeking external validation. You have to develop an internal compass, a sense of self that remains steady regardless of what's happening around you. When I stopped caring so much about whether everyone liked me and started focusing on whether I liked myself, everything changed. My work got better because I was making choices based on what felt right to me, not what I thought would please others. My relationships got better because I attracted people who appreciated the real me. My confidence soared because it was no longer dependent on factors I couldn't control. The fifth step is about embracing discomfort. Let me tell you something that nobody wants to hear: confidence doesn't come from staying in your comfort zone. It comes from repeatedly doing things that scare you and realizing you survive. It comes from facing your fears and discovering that you're stronger than you thought. When I decided to move to America to pursue a career in Hollywood, I was terrified. I was leaving behind everything I knew: my family, my language, my culture, my established career. I was walking into an industry where I had no connections, no credibility, no guarantee of success. People thought I was crazy. Some people thought I was arrogant for even trying. And honestly, there were days when I thought they were right. But I did it anyway. I moved to Los Angeles with just a few suitcases and a dream that felt impossible. And it was hard. It was so much harder than I could have imagined. I faced rejection constantly. I walked into rooms where people didn't even know how to pronounce my name, let alone knew who I was or what I had accomplished. I had to start from scratch, prove myself all over again in a completely new context. And here's what I discovered through that experience. Every time I did something that scared me, my confidence grew. Not because I always succeeded, but because I was proving to myself that I could handle whatever came my way. I could handle rejection. I could handle starting over. I could handle being uncomfortable and uncertain. And that knowledge, that deep, embodied knowledge that you can handle hard things, that's what unshakable confidence is built on. Think about anything you've ever accomplished that you're proud of. I guarantee it required you to be uncomfortable at some point. Maybe you had to have a difficult conversation. Maybe you had to put yourself out there and risk rejection. Maybe you had to work harder than you've ever worked before. That discomfort is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's a sign that you're growing. So my challenge to you is this: seek out discomfort. Volunteer for the project that scares you. Apply for the job you don't think you're qualified for. Start the business you've been dreaming about. Ask out the person you're interested in. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Every single time you choose courage over comfort, you're building your confidence muscle. You're teaching yourself that you're capable of more than you thought possible. The sixth step is something that completely transformed my life. Surround yourself with the right people. Show me your 5 closest friends, and I'll show you your future. The people you spend time with have a massive impact on your confidence. If you're surrounded by people who doubt you, who criticize you, who make you feel small, your confidence will suffer no matter how much internal work you do. But if you surround yourself with people who believe in you, who challenge you to grow, who celebrate your wins and support you through your losses, your confidence will flourish. I've had to make some really difficult decisions about relationships in my life. There have been people I've known for years, people I cared about, who I had to create distance from because they were not supporting my growth. Some of them were jealous of my success. Some of them were projecting their own insecurities onto me. Some of them just couldn't understand why I wanted more, why I wasn't satisfied with good enough. And letting go of those relationships was painful. But it was necessary because I realized that I couldn't become the person I wanted to be while surrounded by people who wanted me to stay the same. I needed people in my life who saw my potential, who pushed me to reach higher, who weren't threatened by my success, but inspired by it. Now, I'm very intentional about who I let into my inner circle. I surround myself with people who are ambitious, who are kind, who are growing and evolving. I have friends who are more successful than me in various areas, and instead of feeling intimidated by that, I feel inspired. I learn from them. I'm elevated by their presence in my life, and when I have doubts or fears, these are the people I turn to, not to have them validate my fears, but to remind me of my strength. Your environment shapes you more than you realize. If you're constantly around negativity, around people who complain and make excuses and play small, you will start to adopt those patterns. But if you're around people who dream big and take action and believe in themselves, that energy is contagious. So audit your relationships. Be honest about whether the people in your life are building you up or tearing you down, and have the courage to make changes if necessary. Your confidence depends on it. Step 7 is about reframing failure. This might be the most important mindset shift you ever make. Most people are not confident because they're terrified of failure. They've internalized the message that failure means something is wrong with them, that they're not good enough, that they should give up. But I'm here to tell you that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to success. I have failed more times than I've succeeded. For every role I've gotten, there are probably 10 I didn't get. For every project that worked out, there are several that didn't. I've been criticized, mocked, rejected, dismissed. And early in my career, every failure felt like the end of the world. I would take it so personally. I would spiral into self-doubt and question whether I should even be pursuing this career. But over time, I started to see failure differently. I started to see each failure as data, as information about what works and what doesn't. I started asking different questions. Instead of, why am I not good enough? I started asking, what can I learn from this? How can I improve? What do I need to do differently next time? That shift in perspective changed everything. There's a story I love to tell about one of my biggest failures. I auditioned for this massive Hollywood film. I'm not going to name it, but it was the kind of role that could have changed my entire career trajectory. I prepared for weeks. I worked with acting coaches. I studied the character inside and out. I walked into that audition feeling more prepared than I had ever felt for anything. And I bombed. I completely bombed. I was so nervous that I forgot my lines. I couldn't connect with the character. I left that room knowing I had blown a huge opportunity, and I was devastated. I cried for days. I questioned whether I was cut out for Hollywood, whether I should just go back to Bollywood, where I was established and successful. But then something interesting happened. About a month later, I got offered a different role. It was smaller, less glamorous, but it was perfect for me. And that role led to other opportunities, connections, relationships that shaped my career in ways that original role never could have. And I realized what I thought was a failure was actually a redirection. The universe, or fate, or whatever you want to call it, was guiding me towards something better. I just couldn't see it at the time because I was so focused on what I thought I wanted. Since then, whenever I face a rejection or a failure, I remind myself of that experience. I trust that there's something better coming, something that's more aligned with who I am and where I'm supposed to be going. And that trust, that faith that everything is happening for my highest good has made me so much more confident. Because I'm not afraid of failure anymore. I know that even if I fail, I'll be okay. I'll learn something, I'll grow, I'll be redirected towards something better. So change your relationship with failure. Stop seeing it as evidence that you're not good enough and start seeing it as part of the process. Every successful person has failed, probably more than unsuccessful people because they've tried more things. Failure is not the problem. The problem is when you let failure stop you from trying again. The 8th step is about developing discipline. Now, I know discipline doesn't sound sexy or exciting. It doesn't sound like something that would be related to confidence. But here's the truth: discipline is the foundation of self-trust, and self-trust is the foundation of confidence. When you consistently do what you say you're going to do, when you keep the promises you make to yourself, you build trust in yourself. And that trust translates into confidence. Think about it this way: if you had a friend who constantly flaked on you, who made promises they never kept, who said they would do something and then didn't follow through, would you trust that person? Would you feel confident relying on them? Of course not. Well, the same is true for your relationship with yourself. If you constantly break promises to yourself, I'm going to wake up early tomorrow, I'm going to start that project, I'm going to eat healthier, I'm going to work on my goals, and then you don't do those things, you're teaching yourself that you can't be trusted. You're eroding your self-confidence with every broken promise. I'm a very disciplined person, and I know that's a big part of why I've been able to accomplish what I've accomplished. When I commit to something, I follow through. If I say I'm going to work out at 6 in the morning, I work out at 6 in the morning, even when I don't feel like it, even when I'm tired, even when I'd rather stay in bed. Not because I'm some superhuman who never struggles, but because I've learned that following through builds my confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're sending yourself a message that I can trust myself, I'm reliable, I'm capable. And over time, those small acts of discipline compound into massive confidence. You start to believe that if you set a goal, you can achieve it. Because you have evidence. You have a track record of following through, of doing hard things, of being consistent. So start small. Don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight. Pick one thing, one small commitment you can make to yourself and actually keep. Maybe it's drinking more water. Maybe it's reading for 15 minutes before bed. Maybe it's journaling every morning. Whatever it is, commit to it fully and do it consistently. And as you build that muscle of discipline, you'll notice your confidence growing right alongside it. The 9th step is about using your voice. Confident people speak up. They share their ideas. They express their opinions. They're not afraid to take up space. And if you want to be truly confident, you have to be willing to use your voice, even when your voice is shaking, even when you're the only one with that perspective, even when you might be wrong. I grew up in a culture where women were often expected to be quiet, to be agreeable, to not make waves. And even as I became successful, I sometimes found myself holding back, not saying what I really thought because I didn't want to be seen as difficult or opinionated. I would sit in meetings with all these powerful men, and I would have ideas, perspectives, insights, but I'd stay quiet. I'd think, they probably already thought of this, or what if I'm wrong, or I don't want to seem aggressive. And you know what happened? Other people would voice the exact ideas I had been thinking, and they'd get credit for them. Opportunities would pass by because I hadn't advocated for myself. Decisions would be made that I disagreed with, but I hadn't spoken up, so I had no right to complain later. Until one day, I just decided enough. I decided that I would rather speak up and be wrong than stay silent and wonder, what if? I started voicing my opinions in meetings. I started advocating for myself and for the things I believed in. And yes, sometimes people pushed back. Sometimes people were uncomfortable with my directness. But you know what else happened? People started respecting me more. I started getting better opportunities because people knew what I stood for, what I valued, what I was capable of contributing. Your voice matters. Your perspective is unique. The world needs to hear what you have to say. And the more you practice using your voice, the more confident you become. Start in small ways. Share your opinion in a conversation with friends. Speak up in a meeting at work. Post something on social media that reflects your true thoughts, not just what you think people want to hear. Every time you use your voice authentically, you're building confidence. Step 10 is about celebrating your wins. This might sound simple, but it's something that most people, especially women, are terrible at. We're so focused on the next goal, the next achievement, the next thing we need to improve that we never stop to acknowledge how far we've come. We minimize our accomplishments. We attribute them to luck or timing rather than our own effort and ability. And in doing so, we rob ourselves of confidence. I used to be horrible at this. I would achieve something, win an award, land a great role, reach a milestone, and I'd barely let myself feel good about it before I was already thinking about the next thing. I'd think, okay, that's great, but what's next? What else do I need to accomplish? And I was always chasing, always feeling like I wasn't doing enough, like I wasn't enough, until someone pointed out to me, by never celebrating my wins, I was reinforcing the belief that nothing I did was ever good enough. I was training my brain to focus on the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be, rather than appreciating the progress I was making. And that was killing my confidence because I was never allowing myself to feel successful, to feel proud, to acknowledge my own growth. So now I'm very intentional about celebrating. When something good happens, I let myself feel it. I share it with the people I love. I take a moment to reflect on what I did to make it happen. The hard work, the persistence, the courage. I acknowledge myself. And it's not about being arrogant or boastful. It's about recognizing your own value, your own accomplishments, your own growth. You should be your own biggest cheerleader. Keep a success journal where you write down your wins, big and small. Finished a project, write it down. Had a difficult conversation, write it down. Tried something new, write it down. And when you're feeling doubtful or insecure, go back and read that journal. Remind yourself of everything you've already accomplished. Let that be evidence that you're capable, that you're growing, that you're moving forward. Step 11 is about body language and presence. Here's something fascinating. Your body language doesn't just communicate to other people how you're feeling. It actually shapes how you feel about yourself. There's research that shows that when you adopt confident body language, standing tall, making eye contact, taking up space, your brain starts producing different hormones. You actually become more confident physiologically. I learned this lesson on that pageant stage when I was 17. I didn't feel confident, but I acted confident. I walked with my shoulders back, my head held high. I made eye contact with the judges. I smiled like I was exactly where I belonged. And you know what? The more I embodied confidence physically, the more I started to actually feel confident. My body was teaching my brain that I was safe, that I was capable, that I was powerful. Now, I'm very conscious of my physical presence. When I walk into a room, I walk in with intention. I take up space. I don't shrink or apologize for being there. When I'm speaking with someone, I give them my full attention. I make eye contact. I speak clearly and at a good volume. These might seem like small things, but they make a huge difference in how you feel about yourself and how others perceive you. So practice confident body language, especially in moments when you don't feel confident. Stand up straight, pull your shoulders back, take deep breaths, make eye contact, speak clearly, move with purpose. Your body will start sending signals to your brain that you're confident, and your brain will start believing it. And finally, step 12, remember that confidence is a practice, not a destination. You're never going to wake up one day and think, okay, I've arrived. I'm confident now and I'll never doubt myself again. It doesn't work that way. Confidence is something you have to practice every single day, in every situation, throughout your entire life. There are still days when I doubt myself, days when I feel insecure or afraid or uncertain. The difference is that now I have tools. I have practices. I know how to work through those feelings rather than being paralyzed by them. I know that feeling fear doesn't mean I'm not confident. It means I'm human. And I can feel the fear and do the thing anyway. Confidence is a choice you make in every moment. It's choosing to believe in yourself when you have every reason to doubt. It's choosing to try when you might fail. It's choosing to show up as yourself when it would be easier to hide. It's choosing to speak up when it would be safer to stay silent. Every single day, you have opportunities to choose confidence. And the more you make that choice, the more natural it becomes. I want to leave you with this final thought. You are capable of so much more than you think you are. Whatever dream you're carrying in your heart, whatever goal feels too big or too scary or too impossible, you can do it. Not because you're perfect or because you have it all figured out or because you're somehow special. You can do it because you're willing to be uncomfortable, because you're willing to fail and try again, because you're willing to work on yourself, to grow, to evolve. Your confidence doesn't come from external achievements or other people's validation. It comes from knowing deep in your bones that no matter what happens, you'll be okay, that you can handle whatever life throws at you, that you are enough exactly as you are right now. So stop waiting. Stop waiting for permission, for the perfect moment, for someone to believe in you first. Start now. Start today. Take one step toward the life you want. Use your voice. Try the thing that scares you. Celebrate how far you've come. Be kind to yourself. Surround yourself with people who lift you up. Keep your promises to yourself. Show up in your body with confidence. And do it all again tomorrow. Because here's what I know for sure: the world needs your unique gifts, your perspective, your voice, your presence. And the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't have it. So change the story. Choose confidence. Choose yourself. Choose courage. You've got this. I believe in you. And more importantly, I hope that after today, you believe in you too. Now go out there and show the world what unshakable confidence looks like. Thank you.